I know I'm a little late to the circus on this video, but Inscryption, this damned moon, is one of my favorite card games of all time.
Wolf OP. What?
My name is Moonfasa, and after 20 hours across the main game and the free Kaycee's Mod DLC, it's time to talk about it. But before we begin, Inscryption, much like the developer's previous game Pony Island, is best experienced blind. It's a game of mystery, puzzles, the creepy, playful kind of horror, and it's meant to shatter your expectations around every corner. It may appear to be a roguelike deck builder on the surface, and at its core this is what it is, but there is a lot more to this game than you may realize. Most reviews and marketing out there only share a fraction of what's to come. This video will be not so much different except for one spoiler I'll share near the end. I'll let you know when and why that's coming up, but just be careful if you're quickly seeking through this video. I'll leave some timestamps below if you have some specific interests or questions you want answered, but for all those reasons, this game is best experienced when you know absolutely nothing about it. So, thanks for watching, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment down below telling me what your favorite part of the video was. And I will see you in the next... Okay, fine, I will finish the video. So, Inscryption is all about death and sacrifice. All of the mechanics play into this, so you'll notice these red blood droplet symbols on some of the cards. These are how many creatures you need to sacrifice in order to play it. And the easiest way to get fodder for your other creatures is by playing squirrel cards, which have no cost. And once per turn, you can either draw from your squirrel deck or your main creature deck. With so many things going on in this game, like puzzle solving and subtle storytelling, the mechanics are actually really well done, and you have some cool decisions to make in how you build your deck and manage this one card draw per turn. Your life points are a scale that can tip up to 5 points in either direction with your opponent, so if the enemy deals 4 damage to you, for example, you have to claw back with 9 damage in order to win, and that can keep ticking back and forth until somebody wins. As far as the story goes, it actually all starts outside of the game first, right as you boot up the game.
Okay, time to figure out what's on this thing.
And that's your first clue to discover what's going on in this world. The main menu itself doesn't give you the option to start a new game, only continue a past save file. Once you get into the game, the scene is set by 2 dark eyes lurking in the shadows. As you take in your surroundings, you realize you've been trapped inside this figure's cabin. If you hope to escape, you'll have to play the roguelike adventure he's so kindly created for you, and play by his rules. Well, sometimes. You can stand up from the game and he'll allow you to take a look around his cabin. Perhaps against his best wishes, you can solve the puzzles here, which will not only unlock new cards and items to make the game easier, but you'll also discover new friends with dark pasts. As you play along with his roleplay, you'll meet a series of his characters, such as the Trapper, who you can buy pelts from using any extra teeth you've built up. So whenever you're dishing out damage to each other in matches, you're actually adding teeth to balance out the scale, and for each point of overkill damage you deal, you get to keep some of the Game Master's teeth and trade these in for pelts. The pelts are playable, but basically useless cards that clog up your deck, until you run into the trader, where you can trade in these pelts for stronger cards. This is a really cute and thematic part of the game, but I found that these pelts often do more harm than good, so oftentimes I would just try to buy the most expensive pelt to take up just 1 card slot, rather than buying several. And near the end of the game, I think I just didn't even bother, because you do actually have to select the right path in order to meet with the trader, and sometimes there are just more intriguing options. The event I really liked, though, was the one that lets you sacrifice one of your maybe weaker cards in order to stitch their ability onto one of your other cards. This one was really cool, as I'm sure everyone who's played roguelike deck builders knows that smaller deck size is always better, especially when you're improving your individual cards while you're at it. And I love this Frankenstein feel of stitching your cards together. You get to do this in other ways as well throughout the game. And the game goes beyond just the game also. It's a little bit late now coming into this, but the developer left a ton of these little Easter eggs hidden throughout the game, which even led to a massive real-life scavenger hunt that took the Inscryption community very near my hometown actually, which was crazy for me to discover. This also led people to open up different files in the game, look closer at seemingly random bits of information tossed throughout the game, and even had people looking into the developer's other games, Pony Island and The Hex for example, where he left some clues for us. For Inscryption, a game that came out 5 years after Pony Island. So Daniel Mullins, the developer, had been planning this for a very long time. The lore inside and outside of this game goes so deep, and you can really tell because Game Theory made 3 whole entire videos on it. Highly recommend checking those out after you play the game because there is a lot that you will miss when you play and a lot you would never even be able to discover on your own. This scavenger hunt was wild. Now, some parts of Inscryption admittedly got a tiny bit monotonous. It's not perfect by any means, and I saw a lot of hate for certain aspects of the game actually. Looking at comments from other people, I think this game drew in a very wide audience of players, capturing several of whom maybe aren't used to the harsh punishments of roguelikes, or those that went into the game with expectations. Definitely don't do that. Remember, this game at its core is a roguelike deck builder, which if you're not familiar, is the genre that was popularized by Slay the Spire. You go through a run, or first playthrough of the game with a very simple deck of cards, and you can improve your deck throughout the run as you go along. This genre, however, is notoriously difficult at the start, and you are expected to lose. After losing a run, you'll get given some improvements to help out future runs, making it easier and easier until you finally beat the game. Inscryption has a really unique way of helping the player out between runs, which I won't spoil, but a lot of the mechanics in this game are centered around death and sacrifice, and it's so cool to me how all of this was designed. I actually found most of the game at least to be somewhat easy overall. I do have a lot of experience in card games, and I imagine this will be fairly difficult if you're brand new to card games, but there are some really overpowered cards and combos and ways to exploit the game mechanics, like infinite squirrel blocking. Most of the times I lost were because I stumbled into a new card or mechanic I was unaware of and maybe didn't read properly, but there were definitely moments that challenged me also. And as soon as you figure out the right strategy to beat that one pesky boss, the game completely changes and you have to figure out a brand new strategy, which I really loved. I find a single-player card game often loses its value once you start to figure it out. This will obviously still be true if you replay Inscryption a bunch of times, but mastering the gameplay isn't the purpose here. It's the fact that you get bombarded with these different situations and have to figure out how to survive. Might not be for everyone, but just remember, losing is as much a part of this game as any other mechanic. And if you're worried about the game being too easy for you, there was a free DLC released called Kaycee's Mod that basically functions the same as any other roguelike deck builders. Instead of a story mode, you play through runs like any other game and can apply challenge modifiers to your matches. You are required to beat the main story to access this though, and the main story takes about 12 hours to finish. If you've already played through a chunk of the main game and aren't happy with the later stages, like I saw a lot of people who weren't, Kaycee's Mod is an enhancement of the first section of the game only. You'll find out what that means after you play. I adored Inscryption in its entirety though. I thought it was incredibly creative. A lot of people didn't like it though because there is quite a drastic swing in the direction this game takes later on. And here is where I'll touch on that one spoiler that I mentioned. So if you don't want to see this bit, thanks so much for watching. I tried my best to explain why this game is so good without spoiling too many of the reasons as to why it's so good, because mystery and adapting to severely unexpected changes is what makes up the skeleton of this game. But if you're still not convinced, this spoiler is a big reason why this game is so unique and creative. And I'm sharing it only because of the comments and Steam reviews I've read. The game does take a huge shift in direction, which can be very jarring and isn't exactly what is marketed on the Steam store page. So, after Chapter 1, the game will transport you to a completely new world and flip the art style on its head. There is a major plot point here, which I won't spoil, but I wanted to show you how drastically this game changes, so that you're aware. I saw a lot of people upset with the shift to a 2D art style, and the game takes more turns like this one in the future. But it's all due to the plot of the game and the mystery behind that floppy disk you get shown at the start. I absolutely loved this. I thought it was such a cool direction to take, especially playing with this idea that the game of Inscryption is real, and this point in the story shows that it's not afraid to break reality to get that message across. And speaking of reality breaking, the next Daniel Mullins game was announced already back in 2023. Pony Island 2, which you can guess is going to have even more crazy mysteries and connections, so it's a great time to check out the Daniel Mullins universe. I hope you enjoyed this dive into Inscryption, and if you want to check out more roguelike deck builders I've reviewed, you can find links to those on screen. And let me know what you thought of this one after you've played it. It's super interesting hearing everyone's opinions on this game. It really seems to speak to people differently. But bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.